Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Alexis Rocha wins a really exciting fight against George Ashley. This was welterweight, and he knocks Ashley out, and I mean knocks him out. The count was waived. Ashley was completely out. This wasn't a TKO. He knocks him out in 7 rounds. But although he's 38 years old, George Ashley, I mean, he's from Ghana. What a gutsy guy, because he was up against it. He's a guy who started, I think he started his career as a super feather or a lightweight. Like I say, this was up at welter. His last defeat of all people was to Stephen Ormond, and that was back in 2018, I think it was. And then before that, I mean, he'd faced a couple of other names that may be familiar to you. Emmanuel Tago, that was 2012, 2013, I think, a long time ago. But he came in with a 33 wins and 5 defeats record, but he'd never been stopped. And like I say, he's 38 years old. So this is last chance saloon in terms of world level, or was last chance saloon for him. And you compare him to Alexis Rocha, who's one of Golden Boy's leading lights, only 25 years old. Suffered 1 defeat. That was a unanimous decision to Rashidi Ellis back in 2020. But he's rebuilt since then, and he's had, I think, 5, coming into this fight, he'd had 5 consecutive wins, 22 wins, 14 knockouts, and just that 1 defeat on points. And clearly he's being groomed for stardom, and he was expected to get rid of George Ashiie very quickly. But this was a good fight to watch, a very, very good fight. Ashiie came to win, all the way from Ghana. He really came to make a splash, to take this opportunity to sort of break onto the scene at world level. And as far as this was on DAZN, so he wants to raise his profile. To be honest with you, even though he got knocked out and the age he is, maybe he won't get too many more chances, but you could do worse than hiring this guy again and putting him in with some prospect, because the guy came to fight and he came to win, and he was just simply outgunned in terms of power, because he was very proactive on the front foot, Ashiie, but Rocha, from the word go, you could tell he had the heavier hands. He was picking his punches better. Strangely enough, he looked like the more, even though he was 13 years younger, he looked like the better schooled fighter, Rocha. Southpaw Rocha was very, very powerful with a right hook. That was that ominous looking punch from the word go. But Ashiie was having none of it. He was, landing his own punches, firing a lot of punches. Not a great deal were landing, really, but he was keeping Rocha busy, making Rocha think, making him look for the opportunities and maybe work for the opportunities. I mean, this was a very, very good learning fight for Rocha. And Ashiie, I mean, he never at any point hurt Rocha, even though he wasn't really, it's almost like he wasn't trying to hurt him, like he was trying to just keep busy, keep the punches going, make Rocha, force Rocha to keep resetting. But all this almost unravelled in the 3rd round for Ashiie, because there was an enormous right hook. Ashiie was in the corner, and he spent a lot of time on the ropes. It was really strange. He was almost comfortable on the ropes. But Rocha landed a big right hook, which knocked Ashiie down, and it was a heavy knockdown. Crowd went wild, very pro-Rocha crowd. And he's an American-Mexican, Rocha, so the crowd was with him. But the right hook that put Ashiie over would have probably knocked out a lot of people. But Ashiie got up, game as hell, did look shaken, managed to get his way to the end of the round. And in the 4th round, he still looked a bit shaken from that big right hook. But he sort of kept working his way into it. And for the next 2 rounds, I mean, he sort of hung on the ropes, or in the corner a lot of the time. I mean, shades of Derek Chisora maybe against, Joseph Parker. But he was hanging there. I don't know whether it was because he didn't trust his legs. Maybe he was still a bit stunned. But he was trying to counterpunch. Rocha was coming in, looking maybe to land another one of those big left hooks. Rocha didn't ignore the jab. Maybe he could have jabbed a bit more, I suppose. But he was trying to jab his way in a lot of the time. But I would have liked to have seen more body work from Rocha. I think that would have been a way to maybe unravel Ashiie a little bit quicker. But Ashley seemed comfortable enough on the ropes. He wasn't winning rounds. I mean, Rocha was winning the rounds on just the heavy hands, the accuracy. Just the weight of punch was really striking. It looked like a welterweight in with a guy who was coming up to welterweight. And it's continued, Ashie still trying to win, but not really having a great deal of success. Rocha looking very ominous. And then in the 7th round, instantly the lights went out because Rocha again with Ashie, and the mistake he made was his head was way too high. Another big right hook separated Ashie from his senses. He fell flat. Again, he was on the ropes. He fell flat on his front. The referee waved it off without even bothering to count. And this also came following, I think it was it the 5th or 6th round? The 6th round, perhaps? I think it was the 6th round. There was an accidental headbutt. And Rocha had a big gash across his left eye, I think it was. And that was seconds before Rocha had landed a low blow on Ashie, and Ashie, there'd been a timeout. So the 6th round for both fighters wasn't a great round for either one of them. Rocha with the cut, it didn't seem to bother him. And in the 7th round, he didn't look bothered by it at all. And he was very, very calm, very mature, 25. But that big right hand that landed, which knocked out Ashie, it would have knocked out many welterweights. And Ashie proved he had a good jaw because he was taking the heavy hands from Rocha. I wouldn't say Rocha's necessarily a one-punch banger, but he was on this occasion against a guy who, again, didn't have much experience at all at welterweight. I don't think he'd fought at welterweight before. But it was a good, one of those highlight reel knockouts that's going to get you noticed. And Rocha has Golden Boy behind him. He can move on up. He can call out some of the big guys. For Ashie at 38, probably a little bit late in the day, maybe pick up a few more paychecks, give a good account of himself. Again, this was the first time he'd been stopped. He's now on 6 defeats. So, I mean, the guy can fight. The guy can really fight. Whether he's world class or not, it's another matter. Maybe he could go down to 140. Because I hate seeing someone give that much and just come up short and not really have options for the future. But at that age, it's difficult, isn't it? 38. For Rocha, the world's his oyster. He's lost once. He seems to have learned from the defeat. Seems to have got a bit better. But that's what you got to do. You got to learn from your defeats. What do they say? There's no such thing as defeat, only victories and lessons. Maybe that's a little looking at it with rose-tinted specs, perhaps. But I know what they mean by that. You've got to learn from your defeats, and it would seem Rocha has done so. So, what did you think of the fight? It was very, very good. It was on DAZN. DAZN continues to have, a really high class of high quality output. I mean, this wasn't a bad card at all. It was a good one. And yet, of course, it's, losing money, and there's been lots of talk about it, about downsizing and whether it's going to continue. But the product, the actual quality of the cards on DAZN is very, very good. And it's my favourite platform. I still watch it the most. But anyway, what did you think of the fight? What did you think of Rocha? Do you think he's got a future? I don't think he's quite going to be elite level, but he'll be a good A- fighter if he stays dedicated. And what do you think? Give us your opinions. Like the video, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That'd be fantastic. That helps us out a lot. In the meantime, of course, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and take care. And I will speak to you again soon. Bye for now.